why God breaks you before He builds you again. There comes a moment when life does not shout anymore. It becomes painfully quiet, and that silence starts to weigh on your heart. You wake up each morning feeling tired before the day even begins. Your prayers still exist, but they no longer feel strong or confident. Your heart keeps asking God questions that never seem to get answered. You trusted God with your plans and believed He was guiding your steps. You stayed faithful even when things were difficult. And yet, something important in your life still broke apart. But what if this season is not meant to destroy you? What if God is not breaking you to hurt you? What if He is preparing you for something that cannot be built on your old foundation? When God begins to break something in your life, it rarely looks holy. It does not feel gentle. It does not feel loving at first. It feels confusing and deeply personal. You start asking yourself what you did wrong. You replay old decisions in your mind, searching for mistakes. But most of the time, the breaking has nothing to do with punishment. God often breaks what you depend on more than Him. Not because it is sinful, but because it has become your foundation. Careers, relationships, routines, even your own strength can slowly replace trust in God. And when that happens, growth stops without you realizing it. You may still pray. You may still believe. But your heart begins leaning on something God never meant to hold your future. This is when God allows shaking. Not to scare you, but to wake you. Because what cannot be shaken will remain. The breaking exposes what was never strong enough to carry the calling God placed on your life. It removes false security. It strips away comfort that kept you stuck. In these moments, faith becomes real. Not the kind that sounds good in words, but the kind that survives silence. The kind that chooses to trust God even when nothing makes sense. You begin to realize that God is not breaking you. He is breaking the version of you that could not survive what is coming next. This season feels slow and heavy for a reason. God is making space. Space for deeper faith. Space for real strength. Sometimes, God breaks what you hold on to. So you finally learn how to hold on to Him instead. After the breaking begins, the hardest part is not the pain. The hardest part is the waiting. You expect God to fix everything quickly. You believe the lesson should already be complete. But days turn into weeks, and weeks quietly turn into months. Nothing moves forward the way you hoped it would. Life feels paused while everyone else keeps going. This waiting season is where many people lose faith. Not because they stop believing in God, but because they stop believing God is still working. Silence can feel like abandonment. Delay can feel like rejection. But God often does His deepest work when nothing on the outside is changing. God uses this quiet space to rebuild your inner world. He reshapes your patience. He strengthens your trust. He teaches your heart how to rest without answers. Before God builds something new, He teaches you how to stand without leaning on the old. This season humbles you. It removes pride you did not know you had. It teaches you that your strength was never the source of your survival. You begin to pray differently. Not for quick solutions, but for steady peace. Not for control, but for trust. This is where faith matures. Not in miracles, but in endurance. Not in clarity, but in consistency. God is not ignoring you in this season. He is teaching you how to walk without needing proof at every step. The waiting is not empty time. It is preparation for the life God is about to rebuild. As time passes, something quite begins to change inside you. The pain does not disappear, but it stops controlling every thought. You begin to breathe again, even while the situation stays the same. This is the moment many people miss. Because God's work here is invisible. You start noticing small shifts in your heart. You react more slowly. You worry less about what you cannot control. You stop fighting God for answers He is not ready to give. Healing often begins before understanding, and faith often grows before clarity. God is teaching you how to carry pain without letting it harden you. He is shaping your character in ways comfort never could. What once felt unbearable now feels manageable. This is not because you became stronger on your own. It is because God strengthened you from the inside. You begin to trust God without demanding explanations. You accept that some answers will only make sense later. You stop measuring your life by speed and start measuring it by depth. Growth like this cannot be rushed. It happens in silence. It happens in surrender. This season is teaching you something powerful. You are still standing, even without all the things you once depended on. Your faith is no longer tied to outcomes. God is not finished with you. He is slowly rebuilding you from the inside out. There comes a quiet moment when you realize you are no longer who you used to be. The pain has shaped you, but it has not destroyed you. You see life differently now, with more honesty and less fear. This is where rebuilding begins. God does not rebuild your life the way it was before. He rebuilds it stronger, deeper, and more grounded. The old version of you needed certainty to move forward. The new version moves forward with trust. You are no longer chasing quick answers. You are learning to walk patiently, step by step. God begins opening doors that did not exist before. Not loud opportunities, but meaningful ones. Not rushed decisions, but steady direction. You start recognizing peace as guidance. If something steals your peace, you no longer force it. This rebuilding teaches you how to listen again. Not just to God's voice, but to your own heart. You begin trusting the wisdom God placed inside you. The fear that once controlled your decisions starts losing its power. God is not rushing this process, because what He is building now must last. He is teaching you stability before success. You may not recognize the strength forming inside you yet, but it is there. And God is carefully shaping what comes next. Finally, you begin to see the purpose behind the pain. The breaking was never meant to defeat you. It was meant to prepare you. God removed what could not carry the weight of what He is about to place in your hands. It was not random. It was not punishment. You notice a subtle change inside. The fear that once ruled your decisions now has less power. The anxiety that pulled at your heart begins to loosen. You start breathing more fully. You start trusting without needing to see every step. What you once thought was the end was only the beginning. God is rebuilding the foundation of your life quietly, carefully, and intentionally. He is shaping your character, your faith, and your patience. You realize that the waiting, the breaking, and the silence were never wasted. You are learning to move forward differently. Not with haste or panic. Not with demands for answers. But with steady trust in the One who sees the whole journey. Every step, no matter how small, is part of the rebuilding process. God is preparing you for a life that cannot be built on old foundations. You are stronger, wiser, and more patient than you were before. You are learning the value of endurance. You are learning how to trust without needing proof. Do not give up now. God is closer than you think. The life He is rebuilding in you is worth every tear, every silence, and every broken piece. Stay patient. Stay faithful. And watch how He restores, stronger than before. If this message touched your heart today, take a moment to pause and reflect. Sit quietly, breathe deeply, and let God's presence remind you that nothing is wasted. If you are going through a season of breaking, know that you're not alone. Share this message with someone who needs hope. Comment below how this season is shaping you and encourage others with your story. Remember, every quiet step you take in faith is part of the rebuilding God is doing inside you. Trust Him, stay patient, and watch how He restores your life stronger than ever.